it's Lex here with Chic Conviction Ministries, and today I have the amazing pleasure of interviewing JJ Vazquez. He is the pastor of Journey Church in Winter Park. So excited to be here today. Thank you so much to you and your wife Liz for welcoming us into your home. It is beautiful, and you guys have been so welcoming. So JJ, please just tell us a little bit about Journey Church, how you guys made it into Winter Park, and the calling that God placed on your life to pastor.
Yeah, absolutely. So Journey Church is now almost just 5 weeks old, so it's pretty exciting. We started with 20 people in 2016, and this past Sunday we saw probably 267 people in worship.
Wow.
So we're excited. I think what we're most excited about is the fact that most of the people that call Journey Church home are either de-churched or unchurched, which means like they haven't been a church in a really long time, or they've never been a church before, which is really who God kind of put in our heart to reach when we decided to start the ministry.
Wow, that's amazing. I was watching one of the, I guess it's the intro video on your website, and one of the models that came up was anyone should be able to know Jesus.
Yeah.
And that really struck in my heart because I was one of those disenfranchised, I guess if you will, of the church. Really couldn't find my place, and then when I really did connect, it was amazing. So tell us your personal journey, how you got to build your relationship with Christ, your personal story.
Yeah, well, I was born and raised in the church, and as was my wife, which I guess we wouldn't be the kind of people who would typically try to build a church for unchurched people because we grew up in it. But I think the reason why God chose us to build that kind of church is because we noticed that we had a certain way of looking at the church as insiders. And for a moment, we realized, man, this isn't what we think it is. And so, like, the quick story is, and we share this story all the time, is that my wife was at a gas station one day, and there was a couple that came up to her, and his name was John, and her name was Rita. She didn't meet Rita, though. John came and asked for some money for gas, and my wife is like a big sucker when it comes to like giving people money. She just gives it all away. But she told the guy who'd give him money, but she wanted to pray with him first. And she did pray with him, and just God touched his heart. He starts crying in the middle of the gas station, takes my wife to introduce her to his family, and so he's got like a 2-year-old in the car, and that's where we met Rita. And we invited them to church on Sunday, or she invited them to church on Sunday. That Sunday, I so happened to be preaching. This isn't our church, by the way. This is a church we were working at before Journey. And they come, which was the first for us, like to see. We had never invited, it seems crazy, been in church our whole lives, but we had never invited like strangers to church. And then they come, and they responded to the word, gave their lives to Christ. And then my wife and I saw them, hands raised, giving their lives over to Jesus. We were like, that's what the church was supposed to be all along. Like, it's not for us, it's for people like John and Rita. And so we take their story, and it really is like the impetus behind why we do what we do.
That's amazing. I love that story because I just can relate in so many ways. I know there are so many, especially young people, who are trying to find out where they belong, how to build a relationship with Christ, and they feel like they don't fit into the typical, church-going thing. So I really admire the message that you and your wife are building there at Journey. I think it's amazing. So in terms of ministering, when did you know that God had called you personally to minister to His people?
So I was 11 years old, and I was talking to, I went to a youth camp, and it was in the winter. It was in Pennsylvania, up north. I used to live in New York. And I had an experience with God, an encounter. I was baptized in the Holy Spirit. And I went back and told my pastor, who loved us, and we loved him. I said, hey, I feel like God's put it in my heart to preach. I was just 11, 12 maybe. And he was like, okay, preach to the kids ministry next week. And so I was like, all right, cool. So I preached to the kids ministry. And I did a whole altar call for like salvation, and like 8 kids gave their lives to Jesus. And so
really?
I met with my pastor, and I was like, 8 kids gave their lives to Jesus. And then he was like, that's awesome. I want you to preach on Sunday next month.
Okay.
And so he gave a 12-year-old an opportunity to preach. Now you have to understand, like, my church was like old school,
traditional
Hispanic type of a church. Like, it was not the kind of church that gave out those kinds of opportunities. And so he did, and I preached, and it was an illustrated sermon. Before I knew what illustrated sermons were, I had preached on the armor of God. I'll never forget. And I went to Toys R Us, and like I bought like the costume, like shield, and like breastplate of righteousness and all that. Anyway, and it went really well, and I just knew from that day Actually, it didn't go very well at all. But I knew from that day that that's what I was called to do, and so that was the moment for me. At least I knew that ministry was what I would always do. And then since then, ministry for me just kind of been something I was doing. So I had the chance to travel and preach all over in New York City at 12,
Wow.
and just churches and visited. So it was great. It was a great opportunity, and I'm honored and blessed that God's been able to open doors for me to be in ministry for this long.
That is amazing. And so you mentioned that you started out in New York, and that's where you're from.
Yeah.
Hence the hat.
Yes.
I should have put the two together.
Yeah.
Is that where you met your wife? You guys both from the New York area?
No. She's not. My wife is homegrown, Orlando, Florida. We met.
You don't find those very often. Most people are transplants from here.
Yeah. So my family's from New York, as well as like 50% of Florida. But no, she was homegrown in Orlando. We met at a young adults convention. She would say that we met at a singles convention, but it's not. It wasn't a singles convention. It's a young adults thing. And she was following me all around, so I just gave her.
That's how it happened, right? She'll totally agree with that.
Totally.
Awesome. So on that topic, Valentine's Day is coming up.
Yes.
And for a lot of young people who are following Christ, sometimes developing godly relationships with Christ at the center can sometimes be challenging, the boundaries and things like that. If you care to share, what things would you recommend to a young follower of Christ? Building a godly relationship, seeking those sorts of things, and finding the person for you. What would you recommend for that?
I think I would tell any single person who's in love with Christ, instead of trying to find the one, try and be the one. And I think when you prepare yourself for the person that God brings you, when that person comes, you'll be ready. And so, I always share the story of Isaac and Rebecca. And so, I'm pretty familiar, but Abraham sends his servant to go find Isaac a wife, and the servant, we never know his name, but the servant says, I'm going to go, and the girl who offers me water and water for my camels, that's the girl. Now, he had 7 camels, and each camel can drink a ton of water. And so what we know about Rebecca before we know anything about her is that this girl is going to be a servant. And so what's interesting is that if she wasn't a servant, she would have missed her one. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
She had to go through some types of things as an individual. She had to build up character so that when the prince came coming, she was ready for the prince. Now, she had not developed that. If her father had sent her out for water, she said, no, I don't want to go get water because I'm waiting for the one. She'd actually missed it in her looking for it, But while she was just kind of in her path, serving, developing as an individual, then God brought it. So I would say, stop worrying about looking for him or her. Just focus on building who you are. And when him or her crosses your path, you'll be ready for that person.
I love that. I think that can go for a lot of things, but specifically building those godly relationships.
Yeah.
Awesome. So just sitting here with you, you have just a positive energy about you. It's just it's really kind of energizing. You and your wife are just such positive people. It seems like. So how is it that your relationship with Christ has brought you to this place? I know that times aren't always good, but how is it that God has brought you to this place of seemingly just so content and happy and able to just preach His word? And how did you get to this place?
Yeah, I think it's just perspective. I think everybody could be happy and positive. It's just a matter of focusing on what you have and not on what you don't have. And I think just so much of our cultures, especially with social media, and just it's so easy to compare what other people are doing. But if you just take a second, just by being in America, you're like in the top. I don't want to get the number wrong, but you're in the top 5% richest people in the world. Like if you have a minimum wage job, like just minimum wage, and you work part-time, 20 hours a week minimum wage, you're like top 5% income in the world. Pause and reflect on that. Like top 5 richest people in the world, like you're in that. Yeah, you are. And so I think it's just reflecting on, this interview is taking place in my home. Like this, I own a home, like this is my bench. Like you're on my bench. Like this is exciting. Unbelievable. Like I have a bench. Like you guys are doing an interview on a church that we started. Like it's so much to be thankful for. And I just think we miss all that when we compare.
Yeah. So
I just kind of gave up a while ago on comparing. And that was a huge win for us.
Wow, that's funny. We did a broadcast on similar topics and how social media and comparisons can really almost kind of break your spirit a little bit. To know that God has a purpose for you and it's just for you is so encouraging to know.
Yeah, you can't win when you compare. Because let's say you compare and you think this person's better than me. Now you're depressed. Let's say you compare and you come out with you're better than this person. Well, now you're struggling with pride. Or let's say you compare and you think, what about on the same level? Great, now you're struggling with jealousy and competition because now you're trying to be better than that person. And so there's no way you win when you come to comparing. The only thing you can do is just reflect on all the things that you have. So instead of comparing, reflecting, I think it's the big one.
Yeah, for sure. So we were talking just briefly there about social media and comparison and things like that. That's just part of our world.
Yeah.
2000 oh my gosh, I almost said 2017. But with technology, some good things have come with it as well. I know there are some cool apps out there that can help people stay connected and do devotionals and things like that. Are there any things that you would recommend to the technology user, ways that they can still stay connected to Christ as they're on the go, seemingly so busy?
YouVersion is like the Bible app.
I love that one. Yeah,
love it. One of the features a lot of people don't use that we just started using with our staff is the whole friend option. And so like our staff is on Bible plans, and then when you read a Bible plan, it records it, and because I'm a friend, I can see if you're on it. And so it's a way for all of us to keep each other accountable.
Nice.
And we'll send each other like random text messages like, "Did you read your Bible today?" Like, get on it. But that really helps, and so I love the Bible app. It's cool.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites for sure. It's funny, my mom and my dad, they're new iPhone users, right? And so with the Bible app, you can send out the little updates to share, and they share them to me all the time. I think it's the most hilarious thing ever because they can barely text, but they know how to share their Bible app.
When your mom texts you with an emoji.
It's
like,
for sure. It's like, I don't know how I feel about it. But so thank you so much for just sharing a little bit about you personally and Journey Church. What are some of the fun things that you guys have coming up that people can look forward to? Where can we find you? Where can people connect with JJ Vazquez and Journey Church?
So journeyorl.com, jjvazquez.com. We have all our social media handles at journeyorl. So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and all that. And you can also sign up for emails that we send out every week. So there's one cool thing that we do is every message that we preach on Sunday, we send out a blog on Monday called Win Your Week.
Wow.
Which we're big on having the message be applicable. And so it takes the message and then it gives you 2 things that you can actually do right there then on Monday to set you up for winning your week. So putting the word into practice. So I think that's really cool. You can sign up on the website and you'll get that. So at the end of the month, we have something that we do 3 times a year, which is called Love Week, which so we have small groups in our church. Each small group is responsible for putting on an outreach in the community and opening it up to people. And so the last week in February, first week in March, we have our first Love Week of 2017. And we're estimating to invest probably close to 500 community hours in 1 week.
That's a ton.
Yeah, that's a ton. And the cool part about it is it's completely run by people. So a lot of times you see outreach that starts in and comes out. So like it'll be like the idea of a pastor or the outreach pastor. Like, let's do this. And then they motivate people. But it's actually the people themselves who are putting together the reaching of the community and doing it, which is great because then it gets to mold into their area. So instead of me as a pastor setting the goal, you have people meeting in their homes saying, hey, let's do something for my neighbor. And so it becomes more like, touchy, more I don't say real, because any type of times you help somebody, it's real, but more personal. It becomes more personal because you're impacting people's lives who you know. So yeah, we're pumped about that. That'll happen at the end of the week, end of the month.
I love that idea. Going out into the community, getting people involved, getting people energized. It's amazing. You guys, you said 5 weeks now, and just the buzz about what you're doing here in the Orlando community, it's already, setting wildfire about the place. So
5 months.
Yeah. Sorry. Oh, 5 months, 5 months. I was like, 5 weeks.
5 weeks, doing a lot in 5 weeks.
But it's amazing. Thank you so much for chatting with us today.
Thank you guys for having me.
Of course. And if you could leave any parting words for our viewers, Chic Conviction Ministries, we're all about the digital age and connecting with Christ here with technology. If there's anything you could leave us with, a word, what would it be?
It would be keep going. Yeah, it's been like my motto for 2017 is, we start off the year with a lot of great passions and dreams and visions. And even you guys, it's like your first interview, right?
Yes, it is.
So just speak life into you guys. Just keep going. Nothing great is ever done once. The great things are always the things that are done consistently. And so there's a list of 10 things that I tell myself every morning. It's an idea I got from Craig Rochelle. It's called Morning Declarations. And one of the ones I always stick on is that success is not determined. Success is determined long obedience in the same direction. And then I love that idea of it's not what I do today, it's what I do tomorrow, and the day after that, and the day after that. Just being consistent with the dream that God's given you, because it's not going to happen overnight. And so as a church planner and as entrepreneurs, I'm sure you guys can relate. So it's putting that in perspective. My story is not going to be the story of the guy who, started his church and like in 2 months he's running like 10,000 people, and your story might not be that story. But if you stick with it long enough, it will be a story,
Right,
and so just keep it going. That's like my motto for Transit.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Again, you and your wife, thank you so much for opening your lovely home. And you also have 2 lovely boys we didn't get to mention. Tell us a little bit. Oh, yes, they had this beautiful
it's my boys.
gift to mom.
Yes, we made that for her birthday. So it's like just a photo Instagram. We have like a really good picture of them, I'm sure. Yeah.
They're just the cutest thing. How old are they?
That's them. So that's Justice with the long hair. I can't see it. He's 5. He'll be 5 next week. That's why. This Sunday's his birthday party.
Oh.
And then that's Zane. Zane is 2. So Justice and Zane, that's Liz, my wife.
Oh, such a beautiful family doing some amazing things here in the Orlando community. Thank you so much, JJ, for sitting down with us today and being our first interview. We so appreciate it.